Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about adoption.com. Just to give you a little bit of an overview, I want to share how adoption.com has been impacted by social innovation. They are a for-profit organization, however, they don't maximize profits like many other businesses that were mentioned for this project. So first up, I wanted to bring up what our social issue was. And the way that I can best describe it is that children are not being placed in a safe environment and they're not receiving the support that they need. And this can fall under a variety of areas, including mental, emotional, physical, and educational, with that need for support. And so the innovation to this issue is adoption. Now, adoption, it affects multiple people. It can affect birth parents. This can include the biological mom, the biological dad, and even some of their extended family as well if they're involved in the situation. Then you have your child actually being adopted. And then finally, you have the adoptive families. This could be the adoptive dad, the adoptive mom, and the adoptive siblings, as well as their extended family. So it can impact quite a large group of people. And it can impact them both positively and negatively. Many of the children that are adopted, they come from hard environments that usually are not very safe. Some of it can include poverty, drugs and alcohol, abuse, violence, marital hardships from the parents, crime, and even incarceration. Some of these parents are not in a place where they can care for their children, and this is where adoption comes into play. One other reason why a child could also be placed for adoption is because of health problems in the family. It's not as common, but it still can happen. So this social innovation, it really focuses on placing a child in a safe, secure environment where he or she can grow and thrive. Now this brings me to my next point, which is the impact of this social innovation. Now I did want to make one connection with our class content because I feel like that is important to connect back to what we've been learning over the past weeks. And one thing that we've been learning about is root causes. What is the core of what this problem is? And I found three common ones that really make it so that the child needs to be put up for adoption, and that includes abuse, neglect, and unstable living. Adoption has become this answer for children not falling into this cycle that previous generations have done previously. And I will get more into that further on in this presentation. Now, the impact that adoption.com and adoptions in general has made on children and families is, and even the biological parents, is one, that it encourages these birth mothers to adopt their child instead of doing an abortion or even passing the child on from family to family to family. It also helps the adoptive families. It explains and assists them in the process of adopting through a variety of different routes, such as foster care, private adoptions, international adoptions. There's multiple choices with that. And then it also gives resources for children who have been adopted to connect and reunite back with their birth parents. Many of the times they've shown that the results have a positive impact on everyone involved with those situations. Now, this comes to some of the struggles and failures that you will see in the adoption process. When it comes to the adoptive family, there tends to be a lot of financial and emotional problems. Financial because it's really expensive to pay for a child, and if you're wanting to adopt a baby, then sometimes you can have fall through where a birth mom decides not to place the child up for adoption, but you've been paying birth mother expenses, and so then you lose all that money and you can't get reimbursed for that. And so that's very difficult at times. And then the emotional, just not knowing if the child will stay with you long term, if it's a short term thing, especially in foster care, you constantly have children coming back and forth between the birth family and especially their moms and you as the adoptive family, and you're waiting for rights to be terminated, and there's just so many emotions that go with it. And then there's the biological family where they're trying to move forward, but then they just keep getting stuck in that drug use or that abuse. And it can be hard, especially when it's these generational problems that have been affecting this over the years. And for the child, they have problems with trauma and attachment issues, along with self-esteem and emotionally. It's hard to regulate all those things. And then if you have a child that's older with medical or mental problems, it can be even harder for them to find a family that would actually want to adopt them. Now, with all that being said, there's also a lot of good. You can find a lot of successes and accomplishments in it. We've seen many adoptive families really wanting what's best for the child that they adopt, and these children fill that hole that they have, and it makes these families feel more complete. With these biological families, they can gain peace knowing that the child's in a safe, stable environment. They have more access to resources as well, with jobs and health care and addiction recovery. And so this can help them to move past those hard times, and sometimes that's all parents need. And then with the child, there's so many more opportunities to get an education and to participate in extracurricular activities and to go on trips. There's just so much more. And then these children also have that family support that they wouldn't have had otherwise if they'd stayed in the situation that they were in previously. Now, one recommendation that I have is to lower the prices of adoption. They have gone up over the years, and now many parents are paying between $20,000 to $50,000 for just one child in a private or international adoption. And this has made it really hard for families to have that opportunity to adopt. If adoptions were thought of as less of a business and more of a service, I think we'd be able to find a place that we could have better costs for families. I think also if more grants were available to families, it would also take off that strain. Because many times families take out loans or they have to have these big fundraisers in order to adopt their children. And if you're adopting babies, then you also have birth mother expenses that you have to pay, and they just add up over a lot of time as time goes on and the money just keeps adding up. So I think if the agencies and adoption places, if they can have the costs written down clearly and broken down into manageable price ranges, and then having more grant opportunities, I think that will help in these situations. And my recommendation for scaling is just to let more biological parents know about these opportunities. Many young women have turned to abortions or passed child from person to person, and if they knew and had this awareness in these communities in through social media, I think this could really help put children in better situations and open more doors. Even if they don't adopt out their child, they still are gaining tools to help their child better in the long run. So that is my presentation, and here are my references.